Steam, a modern GameStop that doesn't look at your 5 PS2 games and offers you $5 for them. With the introduction of Steam Greenlight came the possibility for any person with Visual Studio installed to upload a game. And a lot of these games are pretty shitty. But then there are those hidden gems. Games nobody cares about that are actually pretty good. And today I'd like to talk about one of those games. This is Helltown. Okay, so let me get this out of the way first. Helltown is a short game, despite the 3 endings you can find. So I'll try to keep this really short. Shit! Because of the game being this short, I will talk about the endings, so if you decide to pick this up, it'll be best to experience this for yourself. If you just want a short summary to know if this game is any good, just skip to the given time in this video. Otherwise, I welcome you to join me in this journey through Helltown. Helltown. I originally got this game from the Darkening bundle. It came out in September 2017 and was made by WildArts, who describe themselves as, quote from their Twitter, "Choose students who will make great games and deliver quality experiences directly to you." So, did they deliver? Well, yes and no. Let me explain. The game starts with a nightmare frequency in which you walk through a forest. The first thing I noticed is this really strange filter. It kind of looks like somebody put one of these insect screens and slapped it on top of the camera. I gotta be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of filters and overlays like this. I already mentioned this in my Deadly Premonition video, but overlays kinda seem to be in the zeitgeist. Anyway, so we walk through this forest toward a crypt or something, all the while hearing a strange sound popping up and disappearing again. I tried to chase that sound at first, but I couldn't find the source of it. Then I turned around and what the hell is that thing? Right after I saw this, the screen turned to black and I woke up in a hotel room of sorts and discovered a letter telling us that we are the new postman in a small town called Littlevale. I must admit, although I dislike this overlay stuff, I really like the aesthetics of this game. I'm a fan of horror games that don't have highly realistic models and textures, that leaves a little bit to the imagination. It's a thin line though. Sometimes things will look laughable without proper graphics. I have a lot of respect for game devs who can pull this kind of thing off. So we go back to sleep and the next day we are ready for our new job. It's so sunny, birds are chirping, the people are smiling, everything seems pretty happy. You listen to the people talk and get to know them. Then after making all your deliveries for the day, like wild berries, books and the like, you're free to go explore. When delivering the wild berries though, the woman talks about her special tea. Remember this. In fact, a lot of what the characters do and say now, what seems pretty innocent, quickly turns dark in retrospect once you play further. And the game does get a lot more sinister really quickly. This is the first problem I have with this game. Its atmosphere and atmosphere building is just okay. I can't even completely explain why, but I'll try my best. While everything does get darker, it just kind of happens without a lot of build-up. I guess this game really suffers a lot from being so short. It feels a little rushed despite there really being no time constraint. I think I would have liked a few more days in the town and more to explore. And the music, well, there is very little music. And the little music it does have is mostly just droning noise. I'm a fan of ambient music, but you can't make music by just placing a drone with some reverb and pause stretching it to infinity and just throwing some drum loops in there. I mean, sometimes that's fine, but I would have appreciated a little more variety in the soundtrack. The only song that is kind of memorable is the title song. The rest of it is sadly pretty forgettable, which is a problem because a lot of horror lives and dies with their sound and music design. Now, that being said, there is one particular sequence in which I appreciated the lack of music. What the fuck? See, most games would add a sound effect here, but this game doesn't, and because of that, it just organically happens. I wasn't even 100% sure if I just missed the figure the first time. Is it following me? Oh my god, this dog is so adorable. You can also find this homeless man. That is the first thing that seems a little off about this place. Then there's this really strange cabin. Huh. Well, I'm sure it's abandoned. Yeah, 100% sure. And then there is this cave with the strange looking stone. There are some other little things, but that's about everything you can explore in the town. I hope you can now kind of see what I was saying earlier when I was talking about having more to explore. So as you come to check into the hotel, you find these two people talking to a man named Neil. And he seems scared about something. These other three people earlier were bad-mouthing Neil as well, so he does seem like the odd one out. After going to sleep in the hotel, you wake up to strange noises and your bedroom door being open. Now, despite me talking about the mediocre atmosphere earlier, I must say that this place has pretty good atmosphere. It's probably the best in the game in my opinion. After seeing somebody being killed by a shadowy figure, we wake up. And from this point on, things become dark. As we leave the hotel, Neil is nowhere to be found anymore, and people deny knowing such a person. Oh my god, look at how cute he is! The items you have to deliver become more sinister. A smelly package that she wants to put above her fireplace, and a letter that says, "It's dealt with." I love this. It's really foreboding and makes you creeped out.
And anyway, everything seems really eerie on day 2. The town seems to be preparing for something. Grill party perhaps? Oh yeah. I'm not sorry.
The last thing you get is this strange stone. The first thing I thought of was the big weird stone, and that was actually correct. And you wake up in the forest that was closed off earlier. And this is where the game turns into a better Slender. You have to walk around and pick up keys while avoiding these strange monsters without legs. The sound design here is okay. The next part of the game has you doing pretty much the same thing. And instead of keys, you have to pick up these weird circles. And then there's also this female creature that probably came out of the cabin from earlier. From what I understand, it plays a deeper role in the story, although it is unclear to me what exactly it is supposed to be. While the monsters are kinda cool, I wish the devs would have been a little more creative about the gameplay. The game has a great setup and a lot of potential, but it turns into this fetch quest that is just a hair away from me calling it generic. Just look at these strange people constantly watching you. It does have that ritual kind of feeling to it. And while it's not a great atmosphere, it's definitely a first attempt at creating good atmosphere. and that I can respect. When something kills you, you are teleported to this hell dimension with this really creepy looking baby thing. I don't quite understand the purpose of this place. I've never been able to escape it without being killed by these ghost things.
Bruh.
But there might be more to it. The rest of the game is pretty much of the same. You collect things and return to a certain location. At the very end, there is this SCP-173 or Weeping Angel type of character that only moves when you don't look at it. It was kinda cool when that happened, but it only happened for like 5 minutes and it wasn't really hard to avoid. At the end, it turns out to be a cult led by the pastor, who's some sort of dark demon god, or maybe he's just possessed, I don't know. And then it ends. Just like that. Two investigators come in and turns out the whole town was poisoned. Remember the special tea from the beginning? Then they talk a little bit about the cracked bodies and suggest that it was probably a bear. And that's it. So, it turns out to be an evil cult story. I kind of had flashbacks to the Jonestown massacre for a second. But do you see what I mean when I say lost potential? This game has a great premise, and the way that the things you deliver seem so ordinary and turn out so sinister in retrospect is really cool. I love that kind of stuff. The guys who made this have a lot of skill and great creativity, they just didn't quite harvest it in this little gem. From what I understand, there are 2 other endings, and they only differ a little bit. In the good ending, you seem to join the cult, perhaps as their leader. It's really ambiguous. And in the secret ending, you enter the cabin after collecting all of these talisman-looking things. You learn a little bit more about the cult, and then it just ends. I couldn't find these 2 endings, but if you really want to see them, you can watch them on Neko the Circle and Fucat Geek's channel. So what can I say to summarize this strange indie game? The game's graphics and art style are really good to me. I love the way this looks aside from the insect screen overlay. It has a really interesting premise with the town looking sunny and happy on the surface, but with something darker underneath. I've heard it being compared to Silent Hill, but in my opinion it reminds me a little bit more of Andale from Fallout 3 in that aspect. It's a really cool premise that hasn't been done nearly enough in games in my opinion. Now, I don't know if the game was rushed, or if the devs just lost interest halfway through, but it just feels like it's missing something. It's also really short, clocking in just under 1 hour. The devs show a really good approach to atmosphere, but can't quite deliver, which hurts the game as a whole, sadly. This was Wild Art's first game on Steam, and on Twitter they've been hinting at a new game. Looking at that skill and creativity they have, I'm sure that they will produce a gem to surpass Helltown by far. And about Helltown itself, it's a really interesting game with an awesome way to handle character dialogue, but can't quite achieve what it sets out to do. It's like a little tiny stained gem. In the end, I would definitely recommend this game. Maybe not for full price, but it's definitely worth looking at and playing for an hour or 2, if you can get it for 30 or 50% off. Wait, you can play as the dog? Well, fuck everything I just said, this game's awesome.